I would like to pay my obeisances to His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj and His Holiness Raghunath Swami Maharaj. So, we are on chapter 14 of Bhagavad Gita, and it is titled as The Three Modes of Material Nature. So, it is the second chapter in the Jnana section of Bhagavad Gita, which is the part third. So, it has only 27 verses in it, and we have divided this chapter in only two sessions. One is from 1 to 18 and the other will be from 19 to 27. So we have further divided this chapter into three sections. Number 1 to 13, we will study like how we as soul are conditioned by these three modes. 14 to 18, what will be the effect of these conditioning by the modes? And 19 to 27, how we can transcend these modes of material nature and be situated in Shuddh Sattva, so that we can become eligible to go back to Godhead. That is how we can become Gunatit, above the modes. As Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has previously told Arjuna to be Nishkuna Bhava Arjuna. So to rise above the three modes of material nature. So this chapter is ultimately concluding in devotional service. Like by bhakti alone, we can transcend these three modes of material nature, which are bounding us to this material existence. So conditioning of the soul by the material modes. So this is verse number 22 from the last chapter, which is called as Bij Vakya, or the seed verse. Why? Because it is telling us how Jiva got associated with these modes, and due to his association with the modes, he is transmigrating from one species to another. So anybody would like to recite this verse?
I'll recite, Mataji.
Yes.
Purushaha prakritisto hi bhunkte prakriti jnana guna karanam guna sangosya sad asad yoni janmasu. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil among various species.
Thank you, Dipesh. So we know that due to our desire to enjoy separate from Krishna, Krishna created this material world and he put us in this material world. And once we are in this material world, we get conditioned. We get conditioned by these three modes of nature. They bind us, as we can see in this picture. So like the cause of association can be our desire to enjoy, that bhungate mentality, which word is used here, bhungate. So we had a desire to enjoy, and that resulted resulted in us falling in this material world. And once we come into this material world, we have to act according to the three modes of material nature. We have to follow the laws of nature. We have learned this before also, that he meets with good and evil among various species means he transmigrates from one species to another. He can get a life of a dog or a hog or a human being. So once he get a life of a dog, he had to act accordingly. He cannot act in any other way. So that is the inference from this verse. So once we have associated with the three modes of material nature, we act and we are bounded. So the real purpose of this Bhagavad Gita is to take us out of this bondage of three modes of material nature and transcend these modes. So that this verse is connecting the chapter number 13 and 14. So in verse 13.22, Krishna has explained that how the living entities are transmigrating from one body to another due to his association with the modes of material nature. Because our karmas, our activities, all are determined by in which mode we are. We can see that in mode of goodness, we will do a different type of activity. In mode of passion, we will do a different type of activity. And so that will create or generate our karmas. And once we get that karma, we have to take another birth to bear the results of that. So that is the reason why we are transmigrating from one body to another. So in chapter 14, what Krishna is doing here, now he is explaining us in detail about these modes of material nature. Like what are these modes, how they are working, how they are binding, why we have come in contact with them, and ultimately how they can be destroyed by devotional service of Krishna Bhakti. So this is the first verse of today's chapter. Somebody would like to recite it?
I will recite, Mataji.
Yes, Shanmukh.
Krishna speaks the highest knowledge. Sri Bhagavan Uvacham Param Bhuyah Pravakshyami Jnananam Jnanamuktamam Yajñātvā Munayas Sarve Param Siddhim Ito Gataha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Again I shall declare to you this supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained the supreme perfection."
Thank you, Shanmukh. So here in this verse, again we can see that Krishna has started with glorifying the knowledge he is going to tell us. Similarly, in the chapter number 7, 9th and 10th, also we saw that first two or three verses were about glorifying the knowledge Krishna is going to reveal in that chapter. Similarly, in this chapter also, Krishna is saying that I'm going to give you the supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge. And what will be the result of knowing that knowledge? All the sages have attained the supreme perfection. Now, we might think that the knowledge which we are going to study in this chapter has never been previously explained by Krishna about modes. Nowhere in the Bhagavad Gita till now, except he has mentioned that you have to transcend the modes. But in detail, what are these modes, how they bind up, has not been discussed before. So why he has used the word again here, bhuye, again. So regard this, when I hear the lecture, I understood that here Krishna is using this again word because though we have not studied the technical details of modes of nature before, but if we see the ultimate conclusion or what will be the action plan after learning about these modes intellectually, after gaining the knowledge of these modes, what will happen? It will culminate in devotional service. So about devotional service, we have learned already from chapter number 7 to 12. So the ultimate conclusion of this knowledge is devotional service, and that we have already studied. That's why Krishna is saying that I'm declaring this knowledge again to you. And here we can also say, see that Krishna has not used the word devotees have attained the supreme perfection. He is using the word sages, munya. So because this chapter is about the Gyan Yoga, so it is actually talking about the munis or the Gyan yogis. And how these Gyan yogis will attain the supreme perfection after knowing this knowledge. That is, after knowing this knowledge intellectually, if they analyze the three modes, if they analyze the material elements, they want to analyze the difference between matter and spirit, ultimately they will realize that only and only by devotional service one can transcend these modes of material nature and go back to Godhead. So knowing this, having this knowledge, we also know that Gyan Yoga's ultimate aim is also to know Krishna or devotional service. So these sages will come to that knowledge and ultimately they will attain supreme perfection. So in the second verse also, Krishna is, okay, this is from the purport of this verse. Somebody would like to read it?
Yeah, I will read it, Mataji.
Yes, Tushar.
Yeah, glorification of knowledge. From the 7th chapter to the end of 12th chapter, Sri Krishna in detail reveals the absolute truth, the supreme personality of Godhead. Now, the Lord himself is further enlightening Arjuna The knowledge explained in this chapter is proclaimed by the Supreme Lord to be superior to the knowledge given so far in other chapters. By understanding this knowledge, various great sages attained perfection and transferred to the spiritual world. The Lord now explains the same knowledge in a better way. This knowledge is far superior to all other process of knowledge thus far explained. And knowing this, many attained perfection. Thus, it is expected that one who understands this 14th chapter will attain perfection.
So, Krishna is again glorifying the knowledge he's going to reveal in this chapter. And he's saying as this knowledge to be the best of knowledge, because ultimate conclusion of this knowledge will also be devotional service, as we will see at the end of this chapter. So in the second verse, Krishna is again telling us what will be the result of attaining that knowledge. In a similar way, he is glorifying that knowledge, that by becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation or disturbed at the time of dissolution. So if we become fixed in this knowledge, what will happen? We will attain a transcendental nature like Krishna's. So in purport, Prabhupada explains what does this mean? It means that we will develop qualities like Krishna. We will acquire qualitative equality with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we become free from the repetition of birth and death. One does not, however, lose his identity as an individual soul. So this we have already learned before, that we will not merge with Krishna, but we are already equal in quality with Krishna. Our nature, our soul's nature is also Sachidananda. But due to our being conditioned by the material modes of nature, we are at present in a contaminated state. But once we remove that conditioning, then we will also attain a nature similar to Krishna. And in this material world, whatever knowledge we get, that material knowledge, it is always contaminated by the three modes of material nature. But the knowledge Krishna is going to give us or is giving in Bhagavad Gita, it is not contaminated by the three modes of material nature. And that's why it's called transcendental knowledge. And as soon as we are situated in that transcendental knowledge, what happens? We are on the same platform as the Supreme Person. So this is from the purport by Srila Prabhupada. And again, Prabhupada says that those who have no knowledge of the spiritual sky hold that after being free from material activities of the material form, this spiritual identity becomes formless without any variegatedness. So this is the theory of Mayavadis or materialistics. Mayavadi's theory. Like Nirakar, what they think that after we are free from these material activities, we become formless or we become one with Krishna and there will be no variety. But Prabhupada is opposing this. He's saying, just as there is material variegatedness in this world, in the spiritual world also there is variegatedness. And those in ignorance of this thing, that spiritual existence is opposed to material variety. But actually, in the spiritual sky, one attains a spiritual form. There are spiritual activities and the spiritual situation is called devotional life. So there we will serve Krishna in our own spiritual form, in our own identity. The only difference will be that we will not have a material body there, we will have a spiritual body there. But we will have a different relationship with Krishna according to our own identity, which will not be lost when we go back to Krishna. So this is the Prabhupada's comment on this, like how we are attaining the same nature as like of Krishna. Now in verse number 3rd and 4th, Krishna is telling how Lord is responsible. A Lord is the cause behind creation. And he's saying that I am the person who is impregnating this material nature with all the living entities. I'm putting the seeds of all the living entities into this material nature. So here we can see that in the translation, it is the total material substance called Brahman is the source of birth. And it is that Brahman that I impregnate, making possible the birth of all living beings, O son of Brahma. So here we can see like the Brahman word is being used for total material substance. That is for material nature. And we have learned before that sometimes in Bhagavad Gita, Brahman word is used for the living entity. Sometimes it is used for Supreme Personality of Godhead, but we have seen the difference that Supreme Personality of Godhead is Par Brahman. And sometimes this Brahman word in our Shastras has also been used to denote the total material substance, that is the material energy. So Krishna is saying that this material substance or the material nature act as a womb in which by my glance I am impregnating the various living entities. And this is responsible for births of various types of living entities when creation happens. So now in Bhagavatam we have studied that how creation happens. When Mahavishnu glands, first there is Pradhan, that is the unmanifested, avyakta form of the material nature, where all the ingredients are present, but they are in undifferentiated form. And once Mahavishnu glands in that Pradhana, it becomes agitated or it becomes activated and starts differentiating into various manifestations. And by his glance itself, Mahavishnu impregnates the seeds of the various living entities. And then the further creation begins, like from Pradhan, Mahatattva. Mahatattva is the differentiated form of material nature. And from Mahatattva then comes false ego, Ahankar, and then the three modes, and then the elements and everything becomes manifested and the creation happens. So Krishna is the reason behind. And this has been explained by Prabhupada with this example. He's saying that we know that scorpion lay its eggs in piles of rice. And sometimes it is said that scorpion is born out of rice. But the rice is not the cause of the scorpion. Actually, the eggs were laid by the mother. Similarly, material nature is not the cause of the birth of living entities. The seed is actually given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they only seem to come out as products of material nature. Thus, every living entity, according to his past activities, has a different body created by this material nature so that the entity can enjoy or suffer according to his past deeds. The Lord is the cause of all the manifestations of living entities in this material world. So, by his glance, Krishna is putting the seeds, and the seeds are dependent on the activities we have performed in our last life. And according to activities, we are given a different type of body, and the body's elements are provided by the material nature. So actually, material nature is facilitating Krishna in creating the bodies by providing the ingredients so that we can have a body, every living entity. Because without having that body, we cannot enjoy or suffer. So that's why we get a different type of body according to our desires as well as according to our karmas. So Lord is the actual cause of the manifestations of living entities in this material world, and material nature is only the apparent cause. It is not the actual cause. And further in this verse, also Krishna is declaring that he is the father and Prakriti acts as the mother. So somebody will like to recite this verse?
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
One
Krishna.
question. So in
Yes,
the 14.3, the Brahman is like Pradhan, actually, as per Bhagavatam. Is it what?
Actually, it is like Mahat Tattva, like Pradhan only, because Pradhan is the unmanifested state. And when Mahavishnu glands at that Pradhan, then it's become differentiated. And that differentiated form is actually called Mahatattva. So both are nature only, material nature only, but the Pradhan in his activated form is called Prakriti. So it is like when Vishnu is glancing on the Pradhan, then Mahatattva, and then the further creation starts. And here that Pradhan itself is used as, or Prakriti itself is denoted by the word Brahman.
Okay. And in the purport, when we say during the creation that Jiva gets a different body, is it during the complete creation after the complete annihilation, or is it that partial annihilation, partial creation? How do we understand that part?
That was also, like, I think so discussed in the previous class of Bhagavatam.
Correct.
What is the question? Question is like there's partial annihilation and there is complete annihilation. So we are getting a body even after complete annihilation only like according to desires and activity, or during partial annihilation also we get a different.
In that Prabhuji said, yes. Now in Bhagavatam class, Prabhuji said that they will get the similar body if after the complete annihilation.
After the complete annihilation, also, if you remember, we discussed that the Karan Srishti also, it is soul is impregnated along with Swabhava.
Yes.
So yeah.
So Prabhuji, in Bhagavatam class, why I have doubt in last, I think Sunday's class, Purnindu Prabhu, I think, he has said that after the complete annihilation, the jivas will take the same form or something like that, similar form, same form. And is that something which I understand wrongly?
Same form in a sense that if, for example, there is an annihilation, right? Now we have to understand that what does it mean by safe form? The form is dependent on our desire, activities we have done in past, right?
Yes.
Our kind of bank balance, right? So he's saying same form in terms of what we, even if the manifestation was continuing as it is, the form which we would deserve, we will get the same form. Because of complete annihilation, it does not mean that we'll start from from A again. No, wherever we left, whatever form we were deserving, if there was no annihilation, same form we will get.
Okay.
It is not that our bank balance will become zero.
No, yeah, that is correct. Annihilation doesn't mean that liberation.
Yeah.
Neha Bikamunashvasti.
Because what happens is, in Bhagavatam only, I think so we came across during partial or complete annihilation also we enter into Mahavishnu or Garbhodaksha Vishnu. But it does not mean that we are being liberated.
Yes.
Right? We are going in Garbhodaksha or Mahavishnu, but that is not liberation.
We are there in subtle body with our own desires and activities.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we will get a new body. That's the thing.
Prabhuji, one more question. So you explained some time back the difference between annihilation, partial annihilation and complete annihilation. In one case, that call karma, swabhava. In another case, I think you mentioned there is a difference between those two. In one case, we'll have the karma and swabhava. In another case, maybe one of the entities are not there, something like that. Can you just explain that once again?
See, in either of the cases, the swabhava is our nature. And karma is the balance of the activity. So in both the cases, these things will be there. Right? The difference is that the initial thing in partial, those things will not happen again, like this Pradhan, Mahatattva and all those things. It is then the work of Brahmaji thereafter in partial annihilation.
Yeah.
So that Visarga component will be there primarily. The Sarga component will not be there.
Karana Srishti will not be.
Karan Srishti and also Karya Srishti.
Yes.
Because both of them are still there in form of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. And even as we discussed last time, those higher planets are also there. Those 4. So they are only kind of inundated.
And Brahmaji is also there. Only he's sleeping at that time. That is partial.
Okay, thank you so much, Prabhu.
So if somebody like to recite this verse?
I will try, Mataji.
Yes, Padmaji.
सर्वयोनिषु कौन्तेय मूर्तयः सम्भवन्ति यः तासां ब्रह्म महद्योनिरहं बीजप्रदा पिता. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving father.
Thank you, Padmaji. So Krishna is here saying that all species of life, not only human beings. So Prabhupada in the purport explains that life is present everywhere, like in fire also, on the sun planet also, moon planet also. They are living entities. So all species of life and everywhere, Krishna is the seed-giving father. So sometimes when we think that there will be no living entities on the sun planet or in the fire, there are no living entities. No, they have living entities, but they have a different type of body, which we have also studied in, I think so, second chapter before. So in all species of life and in everywhere, Sarvagataha. So I'm responsible for every living, all species of life, and are made possible by birth in this material nature, and I am the seed-giving father. So Krishna is giving the seed, and material nature is only providing the elements to create that particular body for a particular living entity which he deserves. So this is in these two verses, Krishna is explaining that I am the father and Prakriti is the mother, because it is acting as the womb in which I impregnate by my glands. Now from the fifth verse onwards, Krishna starts describing the modes of material nature. So material nature is consisting of these three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. And when the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, O mighty Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these modes. So we have discussed like why we have come into contact with nature. We know that we cannot trace back the history, why and when it happened. But still, it is the reality that now we have come into contact with nature. And the reason was our desire to enjoy, that bhungte mentality. And because of that, only Krishna felt a need to create this material nature. Now, to understand what are modes, so Chaitanya Charan Prabhu gives a definition for these modes. What he says that whether these modes are things, whether these modes are some concepts, how to understand that. So he says that they are actually things, they are not concepts, but these things are not gross, they are subtle things. And actually, they are the subtle forces that are leading to some interaction between the gross matter and our consciousness. And the root is this subtle matter. That root is through our intelligence, mind, and ego. So there are some forces which we cannot feel or recognize. They can be done only in the arena of some knowledge or understanding. Otherwise, we cannot conceive of these three modes as such because they are very, very certain. But we have to accept this fact, this material nature is acting through these three modes. And we can feel the presence of these modes every day, every moment of our life. We can see that sometimes we are in the mode of goodness, sometimes we are in the mode of passion, and sometimes we are in the mode of ignorance. And there is a competition going on between these modes. And like these modes are reflected in the activities we do, whatever food we are eating, how we are acting in this material world. So that will reflect in which mode we are. We can easily detect a person like he is acting now in the mode of goodness, or he's acting in the mode of passion or in ignorance. So our activities will tell that. So this is the things. Now we are already conditioned by these modes and we are acting according to their dictation. So the whole purpose behind this, studying these modes and understanding what are these modes and how they are acting, is to ultimately transcend these modes. So further going, Krishna will explain in detail about these modes, and we have little bit studied before also Like there are three modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. In mode of goodness, like we feel good. We like to, like the girl is picking flowers, she wants to offer it to Krishna, she's liking the nature and all these things. Passionate people, they are always in competitive nature. They wants to fight, they wants to win, like that. They are always active, but they don't think before they act. And the ignorant people, they neither think, they neither act. They are just in ignorance, they are in madness, and they are always doing nasty things. So these are the three modes. And this example will help us to understand that how modes affect different people in different situations. Suppose this is a situation. This is a situation in which there is a fire in a theater. Now there are so many people sitting there. Same situation, but it will have different effects on different people. Some people, they will go and look for a fire extinguisher and try to extinguish that fire. So we can see that these people are in the mode of goodness because they are able to think, and after thinking, they are able to act in knowledge. Some people, what they will do, as soon as they will see the fire, they will start running here and there, become so active, and in that process, they may stampede also. They may crush some other people and all these things. They will run here and there and try to see where is the door to get out of that situation. And the other people, they will just see the fire, they will become just inactive, they will not move, as if they have frozen, just sit at one place, and then they are just looking at. They're not neither thinking, neither moving, neither acting. So a similar situation can act on people in different ways, depending on in which mode they are. So we are actually bound by these three modes. And these are the features of the three modes as discussed in the verse number 6, 7, and 8. But Prabhupada says that, okay, we are sometimes, like we say, by disposition. Disposition means by nature, a particular person is sometimes in mode of goodness. Like we will see, example, Brahmanas. Brahmanas, we will see maximum time they will be in the mode of goodness. So sometimes they may see, oh, I'm passionate because it's my nature, I'm born like that. So I'm so passionate, or I'm so mode in goodness, or I'm ignorant, I'm in the mode of ignorance. No, even if there is a predominance of one mode in us, which we have got by disposition, but it doesn't mean that we cannot practice or we cannot cultivate the other mode. We can always practice to cultivate and change the mode in which we are. So, for example, if we are in mode of passion, now we know if we associate it with like people in mode of goodness, what will happen? That will influence us. So if we start going to temple, we start doing activities which are in the mode of goodness, slowly and slowly, they will have impact on us. And our mode will also change. We will also come in the mode of goodness, and which we see in our day-to-day life. What we were before we were in bhakti, and what we are today. So definitely by cultivation, we can change the mode in which we are. So that is the practice of bhakti. Because Prabhupada says, without being in the mode of goodness, we cannot practice bhakti. Bhakti cannot be practiced in the mode of passion and ignorance. You at least have to have been in mode of goodness. Then only we can think of transcending and situating ourselves in Shuddha Sattva, or then transcending behind these modes. So that is the thing. We have to always keep trying and not be overcome by these modes at any situation. So that is the purpose of this chapter. If we understand how these modes are working and how they are influencing us and how they are affecting us temporarily or in a longer run, we will see in the further verses. So somebody will like to read about these three modes?
I will go, Mataji.
Yes, Ashatur.
Bondage, bondage by different modes. O sinless one, the mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating and it frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in that mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. Bhagavad Gita 14.6. The mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longings, O son of Kunti. And because of this, the embodied living entity is bound to material fruitive actions. Bhagavad Gita 14.7. O son of Bharata, know that the mode of darkness born of ignorance is the delusion of all embodied living entities. The results of this mode are madness, indolence, and sleep, which bind the conditioned soul. Bhagavad Gita 14.8. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you. So we can see that Krishna is saying, "Oh, sinless one," to Arjuna. The mode of goodness is purer than the others, that we can already feel. And because it's purer, it's illuminating. It illuminates us with knowledge. And once we are illuminated with knowledge, what will happen? It will free us from various sinful reactions. But what is the problem here? Even if we are in the mode of goodness, what will happen? We will become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. We will start thinking that we are better than others. We have overcome the miseries. Now we are living a happy life. We have more knowledge than others, and they become satisfied. They become satisfied with a sense of happiness and knowledge. And that satisfaction itself is a cause of their bondage. So if, for example, Prabhupada gives the example of scientists and philosophers, they definitely situate themselves in more knowledge, and they think that we are so great, we are better than others. And because of that bondage, they have to again maybe take birth again as a repeated scientist. They may again be born as a scientist or as a philosopher, but they will not be able to get out of this cycle of birth, old age, and disease and death.
Mataji,
So that is the problem, even if we are in the mode of goodness.
they will carry
Krishna.
forward all the pious
Deeds and their knowledge, things, happiness. So that will also not lead to liberation.
Yes,
They
yes.
may be
So,
in better situation,
okay.
but ultimately it is bondage only. Okay.
Gold chain.
Like a
And
gold chain
Mataji,
example. Yes.
any sort of knowledge related to the spiritual aspects, if that
Mhm.
leads to considering oneself
Huh.
to be better than others, would that also lead to similar sort of bondage?
Yes. Actually, regarding this, Chaitanya Charitamrita explains and give an example of a crown and an umbrella. Sometimes, like if we take that knowledge also, like we become proud because of that. Oh, I have so much knowledge. Like sometimes maybe Gyan yogis, or sometimes they may feel that they may do the study of the scriptures, Vedas, also in a mood that I want to be intellectually more knowledgeable. I want to know more things. But Krishna says, just by the ultimate purpose of Vedas is to know me. Somebody may be well versed in Vedas and all, but if he doesn't come to a point that Krishna is all in all, that is all useless. Like sometimes, the example is like if we use that knowledge as a crown or on a head, that is only pacifying our ego. But knowledge is to act as an umbrella. It should be as a shelter. We have to take that shelter of that knowledge. We have to take that shelter of that transcendental knowledge. We cannot be proud that we have so much of knowledge, even if it is transcendental knowledge. So all this game of knowing so many verses, we know all the scriptures, we know so much about Bhagavatam, we can give so many classes. But ultimately, if we are not coming to a point that I have to take shelter of this knowledge and ultimately I have to love and serve Krishna, then it's all useless. It will also bound us ultimately. So we have to use this knowledge as a stepping stone towards loving and serving Krishna. Okay, so that is the thing. Now, mode of passion, how it is described, like in mode of passion, we hanker for the things we don't have, and we want more and more. We are never satisfied. So there is hankering. And if there is hankering, what will happen? We have to do karma. We have to do activity to satisfy us, to satisfy our family, our nation, and a community, everything. So we are working like an asses. And that's why we are creating so many karmas, and then we have to take birth again and again to reap its results, to bear its fruits. So this mode of passion is bounding us to material fruitive action. And this will also lead us to repeated cycle of birth, age, old age, and disease. And the last is mode of darkness. Ignorance is called as mode of darkness, and their mode of goodness was called as illuminating. Here the mode of ignorance is darkness. So Prabhupada says in the purport that is mode of ignorance is just opposite to mode of goodness. It results in madness, indolence, and sleep, which is binding the conditions. So those people who are in the mode of ignorance, they are almost like mad people because they don't know what to do in a particular situation. Because they are so ignorant, they don't have knowledge, they cannot use their brain to decide what is good for them, what is bad. And that's why they sometimes waste their time in sleeping more than required. If it is 6 hours sleep is sufficient, they will sleep for 10 to 12 hours. They will be always inactive, don't want to act. And that's why they are good for nothing maybe. They will not good for themselves in this life, not for others. And it will not be good for the future life also. So yeah, they are totally in the mode of darkness, these people who are in the mode of ignorance. So this is bondage by the mode of passion as discussed by Prabhupada in purport. I have already told you about this, that the mode of passion is the main principle behind is attraction between man and woman. And woman has attraction for man and man has attraction for woman. And this is the mode of passion, because this is the main attraction which is driving a man to work hard just to satisfy all these things. As long as he's hankering after these things, he has to work very hard, and he becomes associated with the fruits of activities, becomes bound by such activities. And in order to please his wife, children, society, to keep up his prestige, one has to work. So Prabhupada says that modern civilization is considered to be advanced in the standard of the mode of passion. How powerful you are, how passionate you are, how much work you can do day and night. That is the definition of advanced modern civilization. And formally, the advanced condition was considered to be the mode of goodness. How many brahmanas are there? How many people are in the mode of goodness? They are truthful, they are virtuous. So that was the criteria of an advanced condition. But now the criteria has changed. So if there is no liberation for those in the mode of goodness, what to speak of those who are entangled in the mode of passion? Now, regarding this mode of ignorance, Prabhupada says, we are seeing that our father has died, our grandfather has died, and the children which we have conceiving will also die. So by these things around us, we can define that death is sure. But still, we are madly accumulating money, working very hard all day and night, not caring for the eternal spirit. And this is real madness. In their madness, they are very reluctant to make advancement in spiritual understanding. Such people are very lazy, and when they are invited to associate for spiritual understanding, they are not at all interested. So this is about the people in mode of ignorance. And then the verse number 9 summarizes these three. Krishna says, O son of Bharata, the mode of goodness conditions one's to happiness, passion conditions one's to fruitive actions, and ignorance covering one's knowledge binds one to madness. So this is actually the summary verse of all these 6, 7, and 8 verses. Now, in the next verse, Krishna says there is always a competition going among these modes. Somebody would like to recite this verse?
Yeah, I will recite, Mother.
Yes, Harshita. Yes, Lavanya ji.
रजस्तमश्चापि भूय सत्वं भवति भारत रजः सत्वं तमश्चैव tamah sattva rajastada. Sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent. defeating the modes of passion and ignorance. O son of Bharata, sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance. At other times, ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way, there is always competition for supremacy.
Thank you, Lavanya ji. So ultimately, we can say that huge politics is going on in ourselves because these modes are competing with each other. In our day-to-day life, the time of the day also, the mode we are in, which decided by it. Like why we say we have to chant early in the morning in the Brahma Muhurta, because it is said that that time the mode of goodness is most prevalent. All activities which are in the mode of goodness are conducted in the morning time, because as the day passes, what happens? The mode of passion increases, and as the night approaches, all activities are in the mode of ignorance. That's why all bad things like theft and everything will happen in the night. So and in ourselves also we can see sometimes we try hard to be in mode of goodness, but sometimes we will get angry and we will do some things which are in the mode of passion. And sometimes we are able to suppress the mode of passion, and sometimes we are not able to be in the mode of passion or ignore goodness. We come in the mode of ignorance. We don't want to do anything. We don't feel like anything. We just lie down and we are so lazy. So these different modes are always competing within ourselves also at different times, place, situation, circumstances. And we know that by association also they are impacted. If we associate with people who are in the mode of goodness, definitely it will affect us. We will try to be in the mode of goodness, at least when they are around us like that. And if people are associating with people who are drinking, then they will be impacted in a way that they will also want to drink, and similarly. So it is carried according to the time, place, circumstances. We are affected by these modes in a different way. Now, after telling like how the people are in different modes and what is there like criteria for defining what a person is in mode, he says that if you are in a mode of goodness, you will get a different result. If you are in mode of passion, you will get a different result. And if you are in mode of ignorance, you will get a different result. So in the coming verses, we will see some immediate effect, some intermediate effect, and some long-term effect of being in these three different modes. And these 11, 12, and 13 verses are again repeating about these verses, the manifestation of mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of body are illuminated by knowledge. Same thing. If there are 9 gates in our body, and if all the gates are illuminated by knowledge, we are in the mode of goodness. And when there is increase in the mode of passion, there are symptoms of great attachment, fruited activity, intense endeavor, working hard, workaholics. There's uncontrollable desire, no satisfaction, whatever we do. We are always in competition. If I will get a new bungalow, a new car, that will satisfy me. But we know that whatever we do in this material world for our sense gratification, it will ultimately result in misery. It will not satisfy us. And it will only, like if we itch, the itch increases. The same thing is there. There will be no satisfaction, even if we try to get all whatever is there possible for us to in the material world. And when there is increase in the mode of ignorance, there will be darkness, there will be inertia, inactivity, madness, we will be in illusion. All this will be the feature when we are in the mode of ignorance. So that is again highlighted by Krishna in these 3 verses. So after recognizing the prominence of a particular mode, Krishna is going to explain the effect of conditioning by these 3 modes from verse number 14 to 18. This is a verse from 3rd chapter, 5th shloka, in which Krishna has said that everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. So, yes, we have acquired certain qualities, certain modes of nature from nature when we are born. Okay, like we have defined a characteristic of somebody is a Kshatriya, then he has to be having passion. Otherwise, he cannot fight. If someone is a Brahmana, he has to be in the mode of goodness, because he's born in a family of Brahmana, he's born in a family of Kshatriya. But still, we know that cultivation and changing these modes is also possible. This is like how mode affects our food. If people are in mode of goodness, they will like to eat vegetables, fruits, and this will be discussed further in the 18th chapter, I think so. How food is in different modes. Like if we are eating vegetables and fruits and grains and milk, we are eating food in mode of goodness. If we are eating very spicy, tangy food, which burns our tongue and throat, then we are eating the food in the mode of passion. And if we are eating stale food, which is dried or kept frozen for long in the fridge, or we are eating non-veg and all these things, then we are eating food in the mode of ignorance. And there is a story, which I think so we have already heard before, regarding how conditioned we are with these modes. There was a fisherman, and once it got late for him, he got late in collecting fishes, and it was late night when he was returning back. So he thought that I will not be able to reach my village. So he thought I will stay somewhere. So while he was going back, he saw an ashram where sadhus were living. And so he just asked these sadhus, can I spend a night here? So sadhus said, okay, you can, but you have to leave your bag of fishes outside only. You cannot bring it back inside the ashram. So he said, okay. So he left the bag of fishes outside, and he went inside. And there incense was the smell of incense was there. All around flowers, greenery was there. Mantras were being chanted, and so good environment in the mood of goodness. He went off to sleep. He tried hard to sleep, but he was not able to sleep in that environment. And ultimately, he woke up, he came outside, and he slept with the bag of fishes. So how conditioned he was with that smell of fishes that he couldn't sleep in that good mode of environment of mode of goodness. So this is the conditioning of our living entity by these modes. So effect of conditioning by the modes. So in 14th and 15th, specifically describe that what will be the destination after death. So people who are in mode of goodness, they will attain to the higher planets of the great sages. They may go to Janaloka, Tapaloka, Meherloka, etc. Because definitely we can analyze that higher planets are better situated in mode of goodness than the lower planets. So because of their being in mode of goodness, they will get a chance to go to the higher planets. And those who are in mode of passion, what will happen? They have to again take birth on the earthly planet to enjoy the fruits of their action. And about ignorance, what will happen? They will degrade. They will not even get a life of human being after that, and they may take birth of some animals. So they will take birth in animal kingdom. So this is the long-term effect of being in three modes. Now, in 18th, Krishna similarly describes what will be the direction after death, that they will go upwards toward the high planet, they will live on the earthly planets, or go down to the hellish worlds, or they will degrade themselves. And what will the medium term effect is described in the 16th verse. If we are in the mode of goodness, we will achieve purity. We will be purer than the others. We will feel good. And in that stage, we can at least think of transcending the three modes. And the effect of mode of passion will be always misery, because there will be no satisfaction, and we will always be in the feeling of misery because there is so much of hankering. And effect of ignorance is always foolishness, good for nothing. Immediate effect is in mode of goodness, real knowledge is being developed, and in passion, greed is increasing, and in ignorance, foolishness, madness, and illusion is going to increase. So this is describing 14, 15, 16, 17, and the 18th verse. What is the effect of these modes on us? And this is the last, second last slide of the session. This is depicting a story which we have heard before. There is a man who is holding the branch of a tree, and the rats are just scribbling the branch. Elephant is trying to pull the tree. They are a pond in which there are so many snakes. This man is having danger all around. So we can feel that in the material world, we are also facing so many dangers all around. But he's busy licking the honey which is dropping from that beehive over there. He is just happy in receiving that few drops of honey. Here Krishna is giving his hand to him to take him out of the situation, but he's not depending on Krishna. He's not giving his hand back to Krishna. He's just busy licking the little happiness or little honey he's getting from the beehive. So for the little pleasures which we are getting in this material world, we are facing our back towards Krishna. That is the thing. So to go beyond this, Krishna had said in verse number 45 that Tre Gunaya Vishaya Veda, Nistre Gunaya Bhava Arjuna, Nirdvando Nitya Satvasto, Niryoga Shema Atma. The Vedas are dealing mainly with the subject of three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes, be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. So, from in the next section, we will see how Krishna is asking us to do bhakti and then transcending these three modes. So the next section will be how we can rise above these three modes of material nature and go back to Godhead. So Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments?